The Curly Howard Mystery, finally solved and isn't good. Curly Howard was born Jerome Lester Horwitz on October 22, 1903, in Brooklyn, New York. Growing up in a working-class Jewish family, Curly was often overshadowed by his more assertive brothers. However, it quickly became apparent that Curly had a special gift for making people laugh. Although he was naturally shy and quiet off stage, he transformed completely in front of an audience, where his physical humor, childlike energy, and improvisational genius won hearts. He did not have formal training in acting, but what he lacked in technique, he made up for with raw instinct, perfect timing, and an ability to inhabit absurd characters with total commitment. Before joining the Three Stooges, he held various jobs and performed in local theater productions, honing the slapstick skills that would soon define his career. Curly officially joined the Three Stooges in 1932, replacing his brother Shemp, who had left the act to pursue a solo career. At the time, Curly had a full head of wavy auburn hair and a mustache, but when Moe and showman Ted Healy suggested he shave his head to better fit the group's image, he agreed, reluctantly. The clean-shaven look became iconic, and his on-screen persona, characterized by a high-pitched voice, exaggerated facial expressions, and unforgettable catchphrases like "Nyuk-nyuk-nyuk," "Certainly," and "woo-woo-woo," captivated audiences. His physical comedy was unparalleled, and his routines often included pratfalls, wild gesticulations, and an almost surreal elasticity of expression. Fans were drawn to his boundless energy, vulnerability, and the sense of innocent mischief he brought to each performance. During their golden years at Columbia Pictures from 1934 to 1946, Curly starred in nearly 100 short films with the Three Stooges, many of which are now considered classics of American comedy. Films like Punch Drunks, 1934, Disorder in the Court, 1936, and A Plumbing We Will Go, 1940, remain beloved by fans for their fast-paced gags and Curly's hilarious antics. He was often the centerpiece of the trio, his childlike demeanor and unpredictable behavior elevating the Stooges' routines from simple slapstick to an art form of comic timing and creativity. Curly brought a unique blend of innocence and chaos to the group, endearing himself to generations of viewers. Curly Howard's personal life, particularly his romantic relationships, was often marked by turbulence, impulsiveness, and emotional vulnerability, traits that contrasted sharply with his energetic and carefree on-screen persona. His first marriage, which occurred prior to his widespread recognition as a member of the Three Stooges, was brief and troubled. The union lasted only 5 months and ended in divorce, a harbinger of the instability that would characterize many of his subsequent relationships. At this time, Curly, born Jerome Lester Horwitz, was still working to establish himself professionally, and his comedic genius had yet to reach the national stage. The failure of this early marriage reportedly left him disillusioned and contributed to a pattern of seeking affection and validation through fleeting romances, a theme that would recur throughout his life. On June 7, 1937, a date of sentimental significance because it marked the 12th wedding anniversary of his older brother Moe Howard and Moe's wife Helen, Curly married Elaine Ackerman. This second marriage was more substantial and offered a glimpse into the domestic life Curly longed for. The couple welcomed a daughter, Marilyn, in 1938, marking Curly's first and only child during this period of his life. Despite the birth of their daughter, the relationship between Curly and Elaine deteriorated over time, plagued by personal differences, the pressure of Curly's demanding career, and his increasingly erratic lifestyle. In June 1940, the couple divorced. While Curly maintained a degree of contact with his daughter, the separation from Elaine was a deeply personal blow, and one that likely contributed to the emotional and physical decline he began to experience in the years that followed. In the wake of his second divorce, Curly's health began a downward trajectory that would intensify over the next decade. Already prone to fluctuations in weight, he began to gain a considerable amount of weight during this time, a change that was both visible and concerning to his family and colleagues. Compounding this issue was the onset of hypertension, a condition likely aggravated by both his physical condition and the stresses of life on the road and in the public eye. Unlike the fun-loving whirlwind character he portrayed in film shorts, the real-life Curly increasingly struggled with fatigue, high blood pressure, and an array of other health problems that would plague him for the rest of his life. The demands of being a member of the Three Stooges only worsened these conditions. During World War II, while their film production schedule was paused for approximately 7 months each year, the Stooges devoted their time to live performances and morale-boosting appearances for U.S. military personnel. These tours took them across the country and overseas, often involving multiple shows per day, rigorous travel, and unpredictable conditions. Although intended to support the troops, these performances were physically exhausting and emotionally draining, particularly for Curly, whose health was no longer robust. He bore the brunt of the physical comedy, often engaging in slapstick routines that required falls, pratfalls, and exaggerated movements, all of which taxed his weakening body. During these off-camera periods, Curly was expected to remain sober, especially because Moe enforced strict guidelines against drinking during work. Moe, the de facto leader and disciplinarian of the group, understood the necessity of professionalism, especially given the pressures of live performance. While Curly adhered to Moe's rules while performing, he frequently indulged in excessive behavior once the curtain closed. He was a regular patron of nightclubs and bars, where he sought refuge in food, alcohol, and female companionship, his way of coping with the exhaustion and loneliness that came with fame. These nightly escapades often stretched into the early morning hours, contributing further to his sleep deprivation and physical breakdown. In addition to his indulgences, Curly developed a reputation for reckless financial habits. He earned a generous income through his work with the Stooges, yet he had little understanding of money management. He often spent his earnings as quickly as he received them, lavishing money on expensive meals, high-end liquor, jewelry, and gifts for romantic partners. He also had a penchant for purchasing property, often on impulse without fully considering the financial ramifications. This financial recklessness brought him dangerously close to bankruptcy on multiple occasions. Recognizing the seriousness of the situation, Moe stepped in as his brother's informal financial advisor. He not only helped Curly establish a budget, but also took on the tedious task of preparing his income tax returns, ensuring that at least some semblance of financial stability was maintained. Moe's intervention was both a practical necessity and a profound expression of brotherly concern, underscoring the deep familial bond that held the Stooges together behind the scenes. Despite the chaos that defined much of his personal life, Curly possessed a deeply tender and compassionate side, especially when it came to animals. Dogs, in particular, brought him comfort and joy, serving as loyal companions who offered unconditional love. During the many tours and travels associated with his work, Curly would frequently encounter stray or abandoned dogs. He was known for forming quick bonds with these animals, often feeding them, caring for them, and, when possible, adopting them outright. On numerous occasions, he brought these dogs along with him on the road, refusing to leave them behind until a suitable home could be found. This practice often astonished his fellow performers and hotel staff, who were unaccustomed to seeing a man of his stature lugging around multiple animals from town to town. At home, when not filming or touring, Curly kept several dogs as pets. His affection for these animals was one of the few consistent and grounding forces in his life, revealing a gentler, more nurturing side that contrasted starkly with the chaotic swirl of his professional and romantic affairs. In a heartfelt effort to provide stability and improve his brother's deteriorating health, Mo continually encouraged Curly to find a stable romantic partner who could help anchor him emotionally. Acting on this advice, Curly entered into a whirlwind romance with Marion Buxbaum, a woman he married after only 2 weeks of courtship. The couple wed on October 17, 1945, and while the marriage initially appeared to offer Curly the hope of lasting companionship, it quickly devolved into a bitter and acrimonious relationship. The union lasted only 9 months, marked by constant arguments, mistrust, and conflicting priorities. The divorce proceedings that followed were both publicly humiliating and emotionally devastating. The press, ever eager to exploit the private turmoil of celebrities, sensationalized the divorce, portraying Curly as erratic and unstable. This media circus had a profoundly negative effect on his health. Already weakened by years of stress and illness, Curly's physical condition worsened dramatically in the midst of the legal battle. Just 2 months before the divorce was finalized in July 1946, Curly suffered a major stroke, an event that not only ended his career with the Three Stooges but marked the beginning of a rapid and irreversible decline in his health. Yet even after this devastating blow, Curly still sought companionship and a sense of normalcy. On July 31, 1947, he married Valerie Newman, a woman who would become his most enduring partner. This marriage proved to be the most stable and lasting of his life. With Valerie, Curly found a measure of peace and support that had long eluded him. In 1948, they welcomed a daughter, Janie, providing Curly with a renewed sense of purpose and joy, even as his health continued to fail. Valerie remained by his side through his final years, offering care and companionship during a period marked by frequent hospitalizations and declining physical ability. Unlike his earlier tumultuous relationships, this final chapter of his romantic life was grounded in genuine affection and mutual support. The couple remained married until Curly's death in 1952, a bittersweet conclusion to the life of a man whose comic brilliance masked a lifetime of emotional and physical hardship. For decades, fans of classic comedy have cherished the infectious laughter and larger-than-life persona of Curly Howard, the beloved member of the iconic slapstick trio, the Three Stooges. His trademark high-pitched voice, spinning routines, and exaggerated facial expressions brought joy to millions and created a comedic legacy that has endured for generations. But behind the giddy antics and whirlwind energy that defined his screen presence, there was a much darker, more tragic story, one that was long obscured by studio silence, misreported facts, and the nature of Hollywood's tendency to protect its stars at all costs. Now, with the release of recently unearthed documents, medical records, and family correspondence, the mystery surrounding Curly Howard's sudden physical and mental decline has finally been unraveled, and what has come to light is both heartbreaking and unsettling. Jerome Lester Horwitz, known to the world as Curly, lived a life full of contradictions. Off-screen, he was shy, sensitive, and surprisingly insecure about his appearance and role in the entertainment world, despite being the most popular stooge during their golden years. While audiences saw a lovable clown, those close to Curly saw a man who often struggled with depression, loneliness, and a profound sense of inadequacy. The root of these struggles may be better understood today thanks to new insight into his private life, much of which had remained buried due to stigma and lack of documentation. Mental health, now a topic of open conversation, was then cloaked in shame and misunderstanding. Curly's erratic behavior, frequent disappearances from the set, and sudden mood swings were chalked up to the pressures of fame and the grueling pace of his work, but we now know they were symptoms of far more serious issues. Medical experts, revisiting his case, believe Curly may have suffered from undiagnosed bipolar disorder or another neuropsychiatric condition, exacerbated by his heavy alcohol use, a known coping mechanism he used to deal with his inner turmoil. These revelations add a devastating layer of context to his final years, which were marked by a rapid physical and cognitive deterioration. In 1946, Curly suffered a massive stroke at the age of just 42 while filming a short called Half-Wit's Holiday, abruptly ending his career as a full-time stooge. Many fans thought it was an isolated health event caused by stress or poor health habits, but deeper investigation reveals that Curly had been experiencing transient ischemic attacks, mini-strokes, for several years prior, warning signs that were tragically ignored or misattributed. Perhaps even more troubling is how the Columbia Pictures studio system treated him during this time. Instead of offering him sustained medical support or allowing him proper rest, the studio pushed him to keep performing as long as he was physically capable, fearing the trio's success would falter without his presence. Studio memos from the period reveal a shocking disregard for Curly's well-being, suggesting he be propped up for just one more picture, or that his condition be covered up to avoid public concern. Moe Howard, his older brother and fellow stooge, tried to advocate for him behind the scenes, but even Moe's influence could only go so far within a system designed to prioritize profits over people. After the stroke, Curly lived out his final years in near obscurity, bouncing between care facilities and brief stays with family. He attempted a comeback with a brief cameo in the 1947 short Hold That Lion, but the man who once dazzled audiences with his kinetic brilliance was now frail, confused, and visibly aged beyond his years. Further strokes followed, leaving him incapacitated. By the time of his death in January 1952 at the age of 48, the world had largely forgotten the man who had once made it laugh. His passing was reported in the press, but without the fanfare or tribute his contributions truly deserved. The recent revelations, gleaned from family archives, behind-the-scenes testimonies, and overlooked medical files, paint a sobering picture of a man who gave everything to make people happy, even as his own life fell apart. Curly Howard was not simply a funny man lost to time. He was a deeply vulnerable human being failed by a system that didn't understand how to care for him. The mystery surrounding his decline isn't really a mystery at all anymore. It's a story of neglect, stigma, and the price of fame in an era that demanded laughter at any cost. In the end, solving the Curly Howard mystery hasn't brought the comfort fans might have hoped for. Instead, it forces us to reckon with the truth behind the laughter, that even those who make the world smile can suffer in silence, and that sometimes the funniest people hide the deepest pain. It's not the ending we wanted, but it's the one he deserves to be remembered by.